How's it going? My name is Ethan Diamond, and this is my IST256 project reflection. So the first question, my successes and my failures. I think something that was a little difficult for me to begin with was actually getting an idea of what I really wanted to do and how it would come together. I think it made sense. I knew I wanted to look at basketball stats and kind of see how different stats correlated with one another, but I didn't really have the idea to incorporate advanced stats into it until a little later. I started by just looking at simple stats and seeing that there wasn't really much of a correlation between a lot of these stats, so that made me think that, hey, why not take a look at advanced stats and see which stats are actually going to correlate with how good a player truly is. So that was something that was difficult for me. I think my successes, once I came up with that, I knew exactly what visuals I wanted to create. I knew exactly how I wanted to visualize things and see what compared specifically to what, so that was definitely a strength of me for the project. Something that I needed to change, I began with a correlation matrix, something that I added at the bottom, but then I realized that I had all these interacts before that were kind of accomplishing the same thing, and it wasn't super helpful. There's 10 to 15 stats that I was looking at, this huge correlation matrix. It wasn't really doing anything for me, especially when I had all these interacts before that were doing kind of the same thing, and they were much more easier to understand and more easier to play around with. So I ended up just sticking with that. I didn't want to overdo it. Sometimes simple is better, especially given the 5-minute presentation period. So I thought it would be nice to just include some beginning visuals at the front and nothing too complicated towards the back. I still got my point across. I thought it was a well-done presentation as well. Something I would have done differently is probably looking at this over time. I think it was cool to look at just this one season, but it also would have been cool to look at past seasons and see how kind of the definition of a good analytical player, if you want to call it that, good analytical player, which is kind of what I try to define in my presentation. I want to see how that has changed over time. Nowadays, maybe a guy who scores more and assists more is better in terms of that. But maybe like 10 years ago, someone who was really good was getting a lot of rebounds. And I wonder if that's something that's changed over time. I think that would be cool to look at. It was nice to see the results for me from the 2025-26 season, points and assists and rebounds being those driving factors. But I wonder if I did this in past years, would I get the same results or would I get different results? Something I'd improve if I had more time, I think creating some nicer visuals would have been nice. I think overall they were pretty clear and concise and easy to understand. But I think a nice visual would have been, maybe creating something in terms of that team. I had that team box score kind of look where you could sort by team and sort by advanced stat and filter and sort by that. But I think some sort of visual would be nice, maybe with images of players where you can kind of see, maybe get like a public perception of players and put them on a graph where, the general public thinks they might be compared to where the advanced stats have them. Maybe look at like the NBA top 100 player rankings and you kind of visualize that compared to where their actual analytical ranking is in the NBA. I think that would have been a nice visual to look at, but I think overall I did, check a lot of boxes in terms of this project. And finally, what I learned from the experience, overall it was a great experience, getting to use Python and basketball data. I'm a sport analytics major, so this is a project that, has excited me. And it definitely gave me a good insight into the basketball field, what stats are really driving player performance forward. And it's something that I'm going to look to do in future work. I've done a lot of research for sport analytics, especially in the field of basketball. So I think this will definitely be helpful for me in the future, now that I kind of have a grasp for what stats are really driving, their analytical profiles forward. I really enjoyed this presentation. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out.